take two. My first job is to mount the original muffler off the CBR 600. Doesn't fit very well yet, but I'll fix it later. Whoever made this starter motor needs a pay rise, man. This thing cranks fast. Well, the muffler doesn't work at all really, because there's a bunch of leaks. I'll fix that later too. So onto the guarding for the drive shaft and sprocket that are right by my feet. Just some simple cardboard templates, and I managed to reflect the sun straight at the camera, so I hope you guys enjoy that. So there's my guard, all in place. Bit rough, but it's a bit of a floor guard combination. No bolts, so it's easy to remove if I need to fix anything. I have tacked a dodgy bracket onto here, and I've just got this as the throttle. I think I'll just weld a plate to this lever to make it a bit more throttle-like. Okay, you guys haven't seen this. I've put a bar through here, down here, through to this engine mount. It bolts in and out. It's only tacked together. I've got my throttle, which is a clutch lever that I've welded a pedal onto. Pretty primitive, but it works well. And then there's my gear lever. Got a linkage down there to the motor. It's all only tacked together too. My brake pedal's in, and this also supports my seat. Clutch, gear lever. Can't get my leg caught in the chain anymore, which is great. Or the exhaust. And for the brake, I'm just going to have to drop my foot back and hit that. That'll be cut off there. But the brake's not working. It's jammed up back here. How does this come apart? Oh no, one snapped. Ooh. Alright, I've had a good go at getting this off, but it's totally stuck. Been hammering it. I think all I've done is bend this out of round, but I did manage to work this back and forth through this hole, and now this is actually springing back. See, I can move it with my hand now. So the problem is fixed, but I think I have bent this, which will make the brakes pulse, but it'll be all right. Let's put it back together. I'm sick of it. So this is actually lead number 1, which is the furthest it needs to reach. And this is number 4, which is the shortest it needs to reach. I'm pretty sure these coils fire at the same time, but I'm going to switch the leads over because I'm not 100% sure. So hopefully I don't mess this up. So all my wiring is finally tidied up inside this box. Got my start button there, key there. The dash is going to go around here somewhere. I have to mount that properly. I'll do that later. I kind of want to go for a bit of a hoon, but I've got to strengthen up the chassis. Look, I can twist the whole boat. So I've got to try and strengthen this up somehow. I welded a plate here in the bottom of the boat, and I ended up running this rod right across to here with a turnbuckle, and it stretched the whole boat back into straight, which is really good. And it was actually permanently twisted one way because of this crash years ago. And now with the motor welded in there and everything, it's been welded on crooked, and now this is holding it straight, so it's always under load. So it's actually a good thing. I meant to do that, yeah. So the whole boat is way more rigid now, a lot less flex in it, but it's so loud. One of these exhausts is leaking really bad, so what I'm going to do is run a cut through all of them and see if I can tweak them back straighter so it will bolt up better. It's really awkward to weld in here, but hopefully I've got enough weld on that when I take it off and weld it now, it'll stay there. So here's my wheel gear selector. I've got to put this bearing on, but it's loose. So I'm just going to weld some little bits of weld in 4 places and then machine it back. It only has to hold this bearing, which is going to select the gears. It doesn't have to be too fancy. There we go. So I could go and machine a circular groove either side of that to retain it, or there we go. I've got that lever sorted out in there, that's pretty good. And the 3D printer is making me a handle at the moment. So the 3D printer is playing up, so I ended up just welding a bit of rod to the end of this lever. Let's put it back in and see if it works. There we go, that engages nicely and it can free spin. The reason why I did a bunch of small welds around the outside is so I didn't shrink this piece onto the spline too much. Got a little platform here I can drive while I'm in water mode. I can just operate the throttle like this, and then to flip it in reverse, I just do this. Reverse bucket. Made a little seat here that can be the passenger while we're on land. So when I'm on the water, I can either sit there if I'm by myself, or I'll just stay in that seat, and the passenger will probably sit around here somewhere on like a esky or a chili bin or a cooler, whatever. I've got a boat gas tank that's going underneath here, so I need to hook this up to the motor. But since it's lower than the carburetors, I need a fuel pump. But luckily I have one. Oh yeah. I prime the pump with this. Fuel line runs through here to the pump, which is wired through to the ignition, and that'll just pump away and it'll just reach a certain pressure and it won't go anymore, and then we can run. Yeah. I'll put another bracket on the muffler there, and that also holds that exhaust in an acceptable position. But I've got to sort out a plan B. So I've cut this out in the past for some reason. If I'll knock these off, fill this back in so I can mount. I've got a little 3.3 horsepower Mercury I can mount onto here for a backup in case something fails and I'm stuck out in the water. But I've got to fill this hole in and cut these brackets off. Let's get that done. That fits pretty good. Okay, that's welded in there. I'll test the motor on it later. But something I had been really dreading is I've got to pull the motor out to silicon in the jet pump. This is going to be a mission. So my drive shaft is disconnected. What I'm trying to do is get this unit out because I need to silicon it to the floor and to the transom. Probably have to take the jet pump out too to get it all out. And I've got to get under here, undo these bolts. I've also got to fix this plate. And these bolts have to really be the other way around because they'll just snag up on everything. Let's get that done. And don't worry, I've got a safety stand under here. While the jet pump is out, I weld up this part of the drive shaft. So I'm in at work. The jet pump is out. It's on off a jet ski, an older jet ski I think. There's the impeller. I need to block off this here. This is a port for your water cooling. So that there's under pressure from the impeller. And that's what cools the jet ski motor down. But since I've got a radiator and I need to ride on land, I need to block it off. I've got this bung. Yes, made this a little while ago. Basically need silicone all the way around it, but I need to clean that up first. Got to countersink that so the bolts sit flush. And the jet pump bolted back in. The silicone is just drying. The engine's bolted back in. What I might do next is just finish off some of these welds that I've been waiting to do to make sure everything's right. So I can confirm everything's good now. I've just filled the bottom with some water to see if we've got any leaks, and we do so far. I've got a drip off that corner. Got a bad one actually. It's a shame because I want to drive this tomorrow. I need to fix it quick. Got myself hung up on the back of the trailer here, which I can access the jet pump easier. Oh, this is easy to work under here now, but yeah, I've got a massive gap here. No wonder it was leaking. So I'll fill that up, hopefully that fixes the leaking problem. Also the silicone's not all the way off yet. That ain't going nowhere. Alright, the Mercury little 3.3 fits on the back here. Just great actually. I'm not going to drive it around like this because people will watch the video for 4 seconds and be like, oh, it's not a jet boat, it's got an outboard on the back of it. So I've got to put this inside the boat for driving around. Well, I just thought I'd do a test start and now she won't go. I've started up 1,000 times and now that I'm all loaded up ready to go. Alright, we're underway. The problem I was having is it just got badly flooded. I took all the spark plugs out and cleaned them. Then it fired back up and the carburetors were overfilling. And coming out the overflow, something was stuck, but I think once it warmed up it fixed that problem, so fingers crossed it works. And I brought some spare spark plugs with me and the tools to change them if I have to. So fingers crossed everything goes well. I stop at my parents' place to pick up my dad and I give it a test ride in an open area, which worked fine, but the gearing is way too slow. I got into 6th gear and it's still pretty slow. It's nearly winter here in New Zealand, but the weather has been really nice lately and the water is super clear. The beach slopes away and it very gradually gets deeper. We are in a harbour in salt water. As we start to float, I get Dad to raise the front wheel and I wind up the rear with the impact gun. No,
It seems to be more speed, isn't it?
that's top gear.
Yeah.
I decide to have a go by myself. Still not planing, so I head for the shallow water hoping I can get the skimboard effect. It works, but I drop the revs off a little bit because I don't want to blow the motor, and when I turn to the deeper water it drops off the plane again. I use the wheels to go back to pick up Dad.
It's getting pretty hot. It was blowing coolant out all over the engine. That's what all the smoke was. Yeah, it didn't like running at absolute full throttle top gear. So something's up with the jet pump. It should be, like, there's no resistance on the motor at all spinning it.
Went well that last run.
Yeah, it's just because it went into the shallows, it got like the, you get like a skimboard effect.
Yeah.
That's why it went fast, but it's like the impeller's too low geared.
Yeah, it seems to be,
Yeah, or I think maybe too much cavitation getting up on the plane.
Yeah, it could be.
Probably
Could be
could, yeah.
cavitation as well.
Yeah.
I almost want to run that again, but I was absolute red line in top gear, and it was spewing coolant. So I'm not sure I want to. Maybe we'll park it there for this run.
My dad and I drive around in the shallows for a while, enjoying the scenery. This is a beautiful area of New Zealand.
Well, I always knew there was going to be problems, but that was a somewhat successful test drive, really. So let's talk about what I need to do next. Full of water. Seems to be one of those one-way leaks where it comes in, but I won't go back out. There was a huge amount of water flicking up from something, actually. I'm not quite sure what was happening there, but I need to build a plate over the back there so I don't get soaked. This chain is loose and this shaft is now bent, because it just bent the aluminium there. I don't know if you can see it on the camera, but that whole bit's popped up. I think what happened was the front wheel was sunken into the mud as I parked it still for a while. It had sunk about that deep into the sticky mud and it wouldn't come back out. So a four-wheeler, you know, a wide front tyre would be a big help as well. I probably need to do that. It's a bit of a pain for the passenger to have to lift this up each time to go from water to land. So maybe I'll have another steering rack that pushes on here or something like that, and I can use the rattle gun on it so it's quick. This one here worked awesome. The engine ended up running like a dream. I was pushing it right round to 11,000 RPM in top gear, but the problem was the gearing. So on the land I knew the gearing was bad, and on the water same problem. Even in top gear, spinning flat out, a direct drive was not enough to spin the pump fast enough. I could be having a cavitation problem, but I just think it's not getting the speed. I could put a more aggressive impeller in. Maybe I need to have a chain and sprocket and step it up 2 to 1 here. The other thing is, this was a boot on here. I thought this was a CV joint in here, not a universal. So it's obviously spun so fast it's actually blowing the boot to bits, and there's a universal in there. So this actually should be timed. These two yokes need to be lined up, so that'll be causing some vibration. Not that I really noticed it. If you've got suggestions on how I should go about gearing this thing up, leave it in the comment please.
Here's a rear view of the pump working. It's probably only 80 millimeters or about 3 inches deep here.
Thanks for watching, I'll see you in the next one.
Mum gonna growl you for all this.